Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The A Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
There's a lot of noise around fertility right now, and today we're going to cut through that and focus on some low-hanging fruit that you can pick this season. Hey, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. We're excited to come at you with today's episode. Appreciate you tuning in, so let's dive right in. First and foremost, let's dive into the basics. Let's get back to the basics. Jim Rohn says there are no new fundamentals, and we should be very cautious of anyone who says that there are. And we're starting to see a lot of things come out of the woodwork here where they're finding new fundamentals. And I'm suspect, I guess I would just say that. So let's talk about what really determines the ceiling on our crop. Probably the first 21 to 30 days. We know full well that if we're going to reach maximum potential, those first 21 to 30 days have to be as perfect as we can make them. We know that we have to do everything we can to mitigate stress throughout the growing season, but in particular in that first 30 days. That's why having the adequate amount of phosphorus in the shoots, which is 0.4%, right? And so we have to make sure we have a program that provides that, because that's how we avoid permanent yield loss. Early stress is always going to equal permanent yield loss. So let's talk about the first way that we can do that. First thing we should take a look at is, what are we going to do from a seed treatment standpoint? What can we do where we can influence that seed? Well, one of the things we can do is apply a seed treatment that provides an energy source to get it boosted up out of the ground. We're going to give every seed an early boost. We're going to apply that AMP to get it in there and get it to work. We know that adenosine monophosphate is a naturally occurring energy source in a seed, and we want to make sure that we can give it as much as possible. When we do that, what happens? We're going to improve performance. We're going to improve emergence in particular. We're going to reduce that early stress, and we're going to go a long ways towards supporting that root development. You know, one of the things that I learned running with Francis Childs was how to run a shovel. If you ran with Francis, you better like to dig, because he was always convinced that when he had 2 foot of plant above the ground, he wanted 2 foot of roots below the ground. And if we're going to get early root development, we have to do everything that we can correctly. And guys, here's the bottom line. This seed emergence aid, about $2.50 an acre. We're talking about 3/4 of a bushel to get your money back. And it's one of the lowest cost, lowest risk ways to improve your efficiency and get ready to dive into 26 on the aggressive side, saying, I'm going to make some money. Next thing we should take a look at is, what else are we going to do to really improve that root environment? Well, one of the things we might look at is a root stimulant that's been around for, say, 35 years. This was something that Francis used, that Francis loved. And the bottom line is, guys, we know there's a lot of benefits of roots. When we go out here and look at things from 30,000 feet, life's not that hard. I have a friend that says, figure out how life works and get on the right side of it. And the bottom line is, root development is key. Why? Because the more roots we have, the more nutrients we can get. The more roots we have, the more standability we have. The more roots we have, the more moisture we can get. And guys, let's get to the real important part. There's a symbiotic relationship between roots and mycorrhiza fungi, between roots and a lot of other soil organisms that require roots to exist. And they work together for you. They come in together and they bring nutrients into that plant, and they make the whole world go round in a better way. And so one of the products that we would be looking at is something that would be able to increase that root mass. What if, let's just think about this. What would it be like if you could increase your root mass an average of 4 ounces per plant? 30,000 plants, 7,500 pounds of root mass, and all of a sudden, what have we got? We've got 7,500 pounds of, is it pure organic matter? No. But is it organic matter that's in the right location? Yes, it is, because it's in the soil. And therefore, when we add that 7,500 pounds year after year after year, you say, well, that's not very much because we have 2 million pounds in the top 6 inches. We do. There's 2 million pounds of soil in that top 6 inches of an acre. But the fact of the matter is, guys, think about this. Each year you add that 4 ounces, that 7,500 pounds, you're adding 0.375%. What does that mean? That means in 3 years, that's a full percent on organic matter. And guys, we have multiple growers. Was just looking through some soil tests today. And one of my friends who's worked with us for 25 years, one of the first things that we accomplished on his farms was we had multiple fields where he came in and took his organic matter from 1.2 or 1.4 because he didn't have a lot of organic matter when we started. And 3-4 years later, he's at 2.4 or 2.5. That lets you hold an extra 3/4 of an inch of rain. Every time you raise your organic matter 1%, you're holding another 3/4 of an inch of rain. That in and of itself has tremendous value. So let's take a look at that. You know, a lot of times our roots, what are they up against? Well, we've probably got some compaction. We may have some cold soil. We may not have the best soil structure. And so what if we can do a little cheat here and stimulate those roots to grow? And we know that we can. According to Beck's, this particular product will give you about a $6.50 per acre ROI. And in the event you would, that was on corn. If you'd use it on beans, it's a little more than double that. The fact of the matter is, it works on the soil side of life, on the soil side of the equation, to improve that root environment, to help support the microbial activity. And you're talking about something that's less than $5 an acre. Something else that's worth looking at might be a low-hanging fruit you could reach up. Then let's talk about one of our favorites. We love the sugar. Sugar is the simplest of the low-hanging fruits. There's no question about that. You know, we've been using sugar in our own operation, using it in our test plots for 30, this is what, it'll be our 33rd or 34th year. And it was interesting because one of my mentors who came to me, the very first plot we put in May of 1993, came in, he said, do this. And we put sugar in the trench with soybeans, and we got a little over about 2.2 bushels. And I said, how does that compare to normal? He said, it's normally 2 to 5 bushel just because we put sugar in the seed trench. And he knew that a long time ago. We were just using C&H pure cane sugar from Hawaii. It was kind of miserable to work with, but it worked. And today we don't have to do that. And you know, sugar is not about feeding the plants. It's about feeding the soil biology. Biology drives nutrient cycling. That's kind of important. Biology is going to drive that root signaling. Biology is going to help us with early availability of all of the nutrients that we're needing to get into that plant. And the fact is, a small amount goes a long ways when it's placed correctly. This is one of the most inexpensive tools that you can add to your system. We're talking about $1.49 per acre to put on this pint of liquid sugar. And guys, a lot of our people will put it on in the furrow, post-emerge chemicals, and in a foliar feed, and with a fungicide if they're doing it. They will use it anywhere between 1 and 4 times a year. Now, know this, again, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Sugar is a lot like apples. You've heard the saying, an apple a day will keep the doctor away. And that's true. The second half of that statement is, but if you eat 31 apples on the first day of March, you'll be sicker than a dog. Sugar is a lot like that. A pint every time we go across the field is a great idea. Dumping on a gallon all at once, not so much. We've seen some negative responses from people doing that. And our job, protect you from you and make sure we're getting the economic response that we want. And that's what we're going to go after here. So for $1.49 a pass, I think that's a low-hanging fruit that might be worth taking a shot at. You know, the fact of the matter is a lot of things work together synergistically. Roots and mycorrhiza fungi, tremendous opportunity there. So how do these pieces work together? How does this seed emergence aid and this root stimulant and this sugar all tie together? Because when you do all three of those, what do you end up with? You end up with a much more massive set of roots. And we need that. You know, we see a lot of guys loading, front-end loading, putting way too much nitrogen up front. What does that do? Makes for a lot of vegetative growth and at the expense of adequate root growth. And in the event that you have to front load your nitrogen, I get that. We got to do what we got to do. But we need to do everything in our power to drive those roots to try and keep up with that vegetative growth. These three pieces work together. These three pieces are what's going to tie that together for you so you can get that root growth, so you can get that economic return, so you can grab some low-hanging fruit and make a little extra money in the fall. One of the first things you're going to notice as you do this is you're going to have a faster, more even emergence. What's that worth? We know that a seed that emerges 2 days late, most guys consider it a weed. So what are we after? That even emergence in that first 12 to 24 hours. What else are you going to notice? Early vigor. If you'll leave check strips and you'll go out, you'll see more vigorous shoot growth. And when you grab that shovel, which is your best friend, you'll see a lot more vigorous root growth. And when you can lay those down on the tailgate of your truck and go, this got us this, and where we didn't get it, we're much less in the way of root growth, and that's going to make a difference. That root mass translates into yield, ladies and gentlemen. And the bottom line, we're going to have stress this year. We always do. We don't know if it's going to be early. We don't know if it's going to be late, but we do know we're going to have stress. Why? Because that's the nature of our business. And anything we can do to have better roots puts us in a position to better tolerate all of that stress. So let's start real simple. Let's not make this hard. Now, do I believe that you should replace your fertility? I absolutely do. But it may be such as this deal that you're not going to get to that this year. And so here's 3 cheats that you can do. Let's get that seed treatment on. Let's get that root stimulant on. And let's utilize that liquid sugar, whether we put it in the trench, spray it with our pre-emerge chemicals, with our post-emerge chemicals, with a foliar pass, whatever it is that we might be doing. It's especially effective if you do pair it with row-place fertility. When you can do both, that's good. That makes for a lot of beautiful music come fall time. But guys, let us just say this. Please, in 2026, do something. Do something different, even if it's only on one field. But do something different so you can prove it to yourself, and then you can expand it. If you'd like to talk to some people that have done this, we're happy to set up some 3-way calls with guys that can do that. But the bottom line is this. If you're looking for ways that you can still make some wins this season, it starts with the basics. Let's improve how that seed handles that stress. Let's improve that whole root environment that we've got going there. Let's support that biology in the soil and make it get burning faster and faster and faster. Let's place those nutrients where the roots can reach them quickly. And guys, again, you don't have to change everything. We're just saying change something. You know what Einstein said? The very definition of insanity, doing exactly the same thing and hoping for a different result. Let's not do that. Guys, it's a pleasure to have you tune in. If you're interested in this, reach out. Send us a message. Text Karen at 641-919-5570. And as always, we hope you're having a better day.